Good morning. Well, it's Saturday and it is cold and it's so windy the trees are coming down. And the wind chill factor, I don't know where it takes us, 10 degrees, something like that. Hopefully I'll be between lines of trees. Of course, they do fall down, that's the problem, so I have to be alert. In terms of trees falling down, I don't know why we have to take so much time with the Supreme Court nominee. It's a big mistake because it allows the other side, and we know who they are, to organize against the nomination. But there's another trick that's developed in connection with other nominees on the Hill that I fear we will see implemented in other committees. It's on the Senate side, and they have a shared power arrangement. And the shared power arrangement reflects the fact that the vice president is a tie-breaking vote. So that's how that happened. But the committees are evenly divided. And so when, say a committee is 6 and 6, what we have to have is we need to have one Republican to have a quorum. So what the Republicans are doing is they're boycotting some hearings by holding back and boycotting the meeting, not attending it. Now, if they tried to do that with the Supreme Court nominee, that could give us the same kind of paralysis that we've grown accustomed to in the Senate. It's hard to believe adults could be so totally irresponsible, but there it is. There's a piece of good news that I overlooked, and it is that John Durham, who is the junkyard dog that Barr hired to basically investigate the investigators of the interference of Russians in our American election. Well, he's only had one charge against this guy, Sussman, for basically giving a tip on what he thought might be going on based on scientific analysis of the interference of the alleged possible interference of some Russian hacking. But because they claim he said he was, he didn't identify who he was working for, they claim that that constituted misleading statement and perjury. Well, he's making a motion, which I agree with, by his counsel. He is himself an attorney. And the objection is going to be that what they claim is a crime, assuming everything they say is true, is not in fact a crime, because it's not material or irrelevant who he was representing when he was providing a tip to the FBI for them to evaluate. I think it's a good argument. Durham should lose. Courts don't like to take cases away from juries, so it's that presents one problem. But the misconduct of Durham to sort of use bullshit motions to put prejudicial material into the public media puts him in a weakened position, perhaps, with the judge. And Durham has been called out by the defense attorneys in the case. People keep saying he was such a great prosecutor. Well, he's a fallen prosecutor in my mind, because if you don't have some hard center that defines who you are, then when the temptation comes, for example, to be appointed by the Attorney General for a special investigation, you should ask yourself, do I want to do this job? Is this who I am? And he apparently decided to do it, and I think less of him, whatever he was before this event. Sartre said, you're potentially nothing, you're only what you do. And by what he's done, we define him, and we come up saying he's wanting. That's what I think. The war is imminent in Ukraine. Now, although I'm sure the intelligence said this all along, now our own government is saying so. Everybody in NATO is saying so. Zelensky gave a speech, real straight talk about how we got to this position and how we should be confronting it in the same way that Putin is. You're probably familiar with the notion that terrorism is an asynchronous confrontation, which is to say If you're the terrorist, you go to the place where your opponent won't be. So you have that advantage right away. Well, this is not so much a spatial one as a conceptual one. And the concept is we're capitalists. I don't mean this in a bad way, but that's the principal definition of our system. But we have to be more flexible and understand to protect it sometimes. We have to use force, even though it has been rarely used since World War II. Putin understands that, and he's not a capitalist, and I'm not just talking ideology. He wants, as a historic figure, to restore the Soviet Empire. And maybe he doesn't want the entire empire, maybe he only wants symbols of it, or maybe he does want a lot more than that. But the military action he's about to take is going to be historic, the largest since World War II. And we can't ignore that. That's a statement. And to think that this is like Afghanistan or some of these little wars that we've gotten into on pretext ourselves is a big mistake. It's a mistake for the market that would be us, for the alliances that would be us, and for the future, literally, of the world. So there's that. I think that we have to ask our leaders to be more candid with us. They're not. And we're all suffering for it. I got a master's in information science, and one of the expressions that I like to use was GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. The decisions that you make are only as good as the information you have. And when we're distorting and they're distorting, but they know why they're distorting and how they're distorting, we can't make good decisions. And we're not making good decisions, in part because we are not the land of the free and the home of the brave. We can say these things, but they're not true unless we show them. And, yes, I'm not going to go to a war zone, but if we're not prepared to think that way, we're going to find the world as we know it, or have known it, is going to fall into a shambles. This all goes back to bullies who don't abide by the law, whether it be international law or it be our own law when they're trying to take over our government. And if you do nothing to these people, it only gets worse. Give them an inch, they take a yard. Well, these guys want to take up territory, hectares, and square footage, and they want to seize these places for what? Their position on Earth for what? History? Something they'll never be here to know about. Anyhow, sorry this is a little downer, but we can't do better than what these people are doing to us. And I'm talking about our own leaders, not just the enemy, if you will. And we're so afraid of what voters may think without our leadership that we follow crowds who are tired and anxious about, say, name it, the virus, of course, avoiding a war in Europe. Nobody wants to do these things any more than one wants to catch a cancer themselves. But there's a cancer in our body politic, and it's not just in the United States. And if we're not careful, we're in for a lot of suffering. So, sorry for such an upbeat walk today. Maybe it's my anger at the cold weather. So I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.